changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. It's Friend Friday, which means we are joined today by someone from the Chicken Soup for the Soul family. And today, that is Dr. Christian Conte, who wrote a story that we will be publishing in Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Power of Gratitude, which comes out in late August. Now, Dr. Christian Conte is one of the country's leading authorities on emotional management and how it affects our personal and professional lives. He's a prolific author, and he's a familiar face to many because he was the co-host of the Spike TV show, Coaching Bad, and he's now a counselor on the new VH1's show, Family Therapy. And currently, Christian works with the Florida State University and the University of Oregon football teams, as well as the University of Tennessee football team and the University of Pittsburgh athletics. And he also provides his expertise in maximum security prisons throughout the state of Pennsylvania, where he lives. And he's working on a documentary about men who are getting out of prison. Christian, welcome to the Chicken Soup for the Soul family. I'm very excited that we're going to be publishing our first story from you in August.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate being here. When I hear every time people read my bio, I think this guy's in TV and works with athletics, and then he still chooses to go to prison.
Well, I know you get to. I know you get to walk in and out of the prison the same day, so it's a little different.
I do. It is. It is different with that, but I'm very, very passionate about it. I'd recently done a TED Talk on why I chose to go to prison, and I just think it's so valuable because many people don't realize that 7 out of 10 people who leave prison return. And to me, that's just not acceptable. So I'm in there trying to work and do something different about that.
Yeah, and does a lot of that have to do with one of your special areas, which is anger management?
Definitely. I think people, and when I talk about anger management, I really mean emotional management because it can stem from so many different areas. So I teach people really how to deal with any of the emotions that come up. All too often when they're in prison, they get into behavioral patterns where it's okay to snap and be tough and to, not want to be disrespected. And then that just doesn't translate well to when people get out. And so my job is to try to help them make that transition more effectively.
How did you get into the prison system to perform this service for all of these guys?
Well, I had a very successful program out west. My wife and daughter and I, we live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania right now. But I was a tenured professor at the University of Nevada out west for a long time. And so while I was out there, I co-founded a center for people convicted of violent crimes. And what I found was I'm a 6 foot, 250 pound, bald headed, bearded, tattoo guy. So if you were to see me, if you want to know what I look like, it's pretty much any biker bar you go to, you see 100 of me. And I think that I probably just don't fit what a psychologist probably looks like. And I found that I connected really well with guys, and that they had their guards, they would drop their defenses quicker around me. And so I just had a niche for really helping guys be genuine and real and learn how to change that mentality of having to be a tough guy, because I might look tough on the outside, but my whole MO is about compassion and understanding. And so I found I did it well. And when I came back to Pennsylvania, my home state, I met up with the Secretary of Corrections, Secretary John Wesley, who's doing amazing work. And I said, look, I'd really like to study my theory here, and he gave me an opportunity to do that. And that's how I kind of got into the prison system. So it's a very big passion of mine for sure.
I had a friend who was in prison for a while, and I would visit her every month for 2.5 years. It was really something, just going as a visitor and going through the series of locked doors to get in. And then once you're in there, like, you're at their mercy. One time I got locked in because they were doing a body count or something, and I got stuck there for a whole hour. And this is going to sound so ridiculously suburban, but I was really worried I was going to miss my daughter's soccer game because I was stuck there.
But you know what? I mean, but it was important to you. And the fact is that feeling of not being able to get out is overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming for anyone. So whether it's an hour or whether someone is facing a very long sentence, the reality is not being able to being held against your will is a scary thing. And that this whole theme of gratitude with this recent publication of yours is so meaningful, because I've always been a very grateful person. And when I work in the prison system, that seems to be even amplified, because I walk in and think, my goodness, I'm really grateful for the freedoms that I have. And I want to reach in the hearts of people who are incarcerated and share with them a path for when they get out, so that they can stay on the outside and really learn to appreciate that as well.
Yeah, so the story that you wrote for us for our Power of Gratitude book is about how you were at a really low point in your life, and then you found a way to be grateful for something as simple as being able to breathe and move your body parts and things like that. Why don't you go through that story, give everybody a sneak preview of Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Power of Gratitude, and this is going to be one of the 101 stories in that book, and then take us through how you teach the prisoners to become grateful and use gratitude to help themselves so they don't go right back to prison when they get out.
I wrote that story out of darkness because it was about a very, very dark experience I had in my own life. And I kind of always had this tagline that there are two kinds of people in the world. I always say there are people who have issues and dead people. So if you're currently alive, you've got issues. And that really includes me. To me, it's very important that people see that, because I've never come at others in a top-down position. Like, I'm the doctor, you're the patient, there's something wrong with you. Instead, I look at the world as we're all in this together. So I kind of wanted to show that vulnerability of, and in that story, I talk about a very dark time in my own life, but I had taught and continue to teach people who are in tough times. Most people would define themselves and say, I am who I am today because of all that I've gone through.
That's true.
Many people struggle, right? But I think so many people struggle with, when they're in that dark time, recognizing that this is a moment that's going to define you later on down the road. And for me, in that story, Out of Darkness, I talk about how that really hit me, not just cognitively, not just in my mind, but in my heart and my soul. Like, I really felt like this is the moment where, in the most pain that I can really recall, emotional pain that I can recall ever being in, that I was able to say, I talk a little bit about how I was crying, and when you're crying, you're kind of gasping for air if you're crying hard enough, and it's just kind of like, and then that thought hit me of being thankful that I could actually breathe. And then, as a trail of thoughts goes, once I realized I was thinking about breathing and gratitude for breathing, I realized I wasn't thinking about what was making me sad. So I just kind of expanded on that. And it's become something I've since teach people to do, that I'm working with in counseling, whether they're in prison. I also work with some of the top university football teams in the country, and I teach that to young men too, is to talk about how to be appreciative for everything that you have. Because in that gratitude, even for those tough times, we're shaping who we're going to be. And to me, that's kind of a gift.
Yeah, you're right. And in your story, you do say that when you're going through a tough time, part of the gratitude is not only are you using gratitude for other things in your life to pull you out of that tough time, but also recognizing that you should be grateful for the silver lining of the tough time, which is that it's made you stronger. It's made you a more understanding person, more compassionate, and certainly makes you better as a psychologist, because you can understand more what your patients are going through.
To me, that's the nail on the head. We're all human beings. We all have these experiences, and I might not have been able to experience things that I haven't done everything that everybody's done that I've worked with, but we all have anxiety. We've all experienced depression. We've all experienced sad times and dark times and tough times, and to be able to draw on those times, but not only that, but to recognize as we're going through them, you know what? This is difficult. This is so painful. But as I always say, there's a beginning, middle, and end to every emotional experience. And if we can recognize in the beginning and the middle that there will eventually be an end to it, then it not only changes the fact that we don't have to make really poor decisions in that beginning or middle, but it also shows us that while we're going through it, we can take the time to be grateful that we're having this experience, because it is going to teach us and we are going to learn from it.
Yeah, and if you're mindful as you're going through it that it will end and you will feel better, it helps. It really does help to know that millions of other people have gone through the same kind of thing. Everybody ends up getting through it, which is why we make all of these Chicken Soup for the Soul books, because it shows people you're not alone. Other people have gone through the same thing. They've come out on the other side. Here are their stories. It really puts it all in perspective and makes it a lot easier to get through it. And you have a great phrase. This is how you ended your story. You said, gratitude is the fastest possible path to the light. And I thought that that's the kind of phrase that could go on a T-shirt.
Yeah, yes. It's funny because you say that, because I was a professor for a long time and I loved it. I really loved that position. But my students would call my sayings Conteisms. And they actually made a T-shirt when I decided to leave teaching and ended up going to the TV world and all that stuff. But when I left teaching, my students made me a T-shirt and it had a bunch of my sayings on it. So
oh my
that
gosh.
resonates with me.
Yeah. So tell us about this VH1 show, Family Therapy. What's going on there?
Well, that's some intense stuff. I will tell you that. It's a very intense show where we took some celebrity families who wanted to make things right with their people that they love in their families, and we have some diverse families in there. And it's certainly they're going through an intense process, as everyone does who's going through family therapy. So it's powerful, but you also see some breakthrough moments where people are realizing that, my goodness, I think everybody in my family has a side to this story. Which I got to tell you, when people come into family therapy, I think they don't realize. They usually see their side only. And part of our path is to help them learn all the family members are experiencing something tough here.
Mm-hmm. I know. Families are just such a mess, aren't they? I think anytime you think a family is perfect, you're wrong, because every single family, when you really get to know them on the inside, you find out how dysfunctional they are.
Right, and that's okay. And I think, it's being able to recognize, hey, look, we don't always see eye to eye. Things aren't always perfect, but that's okay, because I can genuinely, if we're in a good spot, I can genuinely love you for you and all of what you come with, and hopefully you can learn to love me for me and all of what I come with, which is really the most beautiful place to be in when it comes to family.
So how do you use gratitude as part of working out the different scenarios on the family therapy show?
To be grateful that your family members are present is one of the biggest things from the onset. Like, you have family members who are sitting here that are both, and even if they're resistant, on some level wanting to make things better. And there are so many people out there who have lost family members to death and have no shot at being able to reconcile with some of this pain. So I think gratitude is first and foremost in that, look, at least we're here. And it might hurt and we might be in a painful spot of disagreement, but at least we're both here. And
it only hurts because they love each other so much. If they could see that, that would make a big difference, right? It never hurts that much if you don't care about the other person.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the hurt happens when we want or demand people in our families to be the way we want them to be. And then when they're not, we're let down. But what I always teach is they're not letting us down. They are who they are. We're letting ourselves down because we're wanting them to be something that they're not, or we're trying to hold on to something from the past. But it is a very beautiful process to see that family therapy for sure.
That is great. Well, I'm really excited that we have you in our upcoming book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Power of Gratitude. And I'm sure we'll find other ways to publish your work in our books, because our books are all about feelings and second chances and making things right and family relationships. So, Christian, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Amy Newmark, and the next time we get together on the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast, I'm going to share some stories with you about one of the most inspiring women I've ever met, one who puts all our problems in perspective. And if you want to learn more about the upcoming book that Dr. Conte's story is in, Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Power of Gratitude, please go to our website, chickensoup.com.